Boy, it is a snowy one out here today. Isn't that right, Pablo? Snow is wet and heavy. So a lot of times when I tell people that we live in the middle of nowhere, Vermont, they often picture us having this ridiculously long driveway. You know, like one of those really long winding ones with lots of trees and such. But fortunately for us, we don't. Our driveway is actually relatively short and close to the street. The other perk is it makes it easier to plow. I really enjoy plowing in the mornings. It's kind of a fun little activity. How to plow your driveway in less than 10 minutes.
Mr. Plow, that's my name. That name again is Mr. Plow.
It's funny. The old timers in Vermont actually didn't even use plows. Like back in the day, what they used to use was something called a snow roller. So picture like a big, like kind of like almost steamroller roller type thingy. And they would pull them with sleighs, and the snow rollers would pack down the snow so that the horses and sleds could go around it. Here in Peacham, we actually have a museum dedicated to snow rollers. This was like something I was completely unaware of until I moved here to Peacham. But it's pretty remarkable to see how people used to deal with the snow back in the day. So ordinarily, I would leave the ducks inside the house on a day like today, but I'm actually going to try to get them outside and swimming a little bit because the weather forecast is calling for the temps to drop a lot. Like it's about like 30 degrees right now, which is relatively warm. It's expected to go down to -1 tonight, -12 tomorrow night, -15 the following night. So we're going to have like several days of lots and lots of cold. And so I want them to get out there and at least get a little bit of a bath before it gets way too cold to get them outside. So we're going to see how successful I am in negotiating the ducks outside this morning. Release the Kraken! They're like, dude, this is a wicked lot of snow, bro. So much snow. So I got 2 fresh eggs this morning, so that's good. And I got them before they froze, which is double good. Somebody sent me an email the other day asking me what it was like to keep ducks off grid in the winter. And at first I read the email and I'm like, what's this guy talking about? I mean, I live in a farmhouse that's connected to the power grid, and I have a well water system, I have internet. I don't really consider myself an off-gridder in the least bit. But then as I thought about it a little bit more and went back and forth with this guy in the email, I realized I actually sort of am keeping these ducks off grid this winter. So when you think about it, right? Our duck house doesn't have any power whatsoever. We supply all of their water by hand with a gravity-fed spring line, or a spring-fed gravity line, or one way or the other. So I guess you could say, technically speaking, we are sort of keeping our ducks off grid right now. I don't have any plans to run electrical out here anytime soon. I might try to do something with a water line someday. The challenge is this: because we have these harsh winters, trying to just run a line that's like only 2 or 3 feet buried is not wise, because it will freeze. Really, to get below that frost line, you got to be at like 7.5, 8 feet-ish. That's a lot of work to put in that infrastructure. And so I guess if you're using that definition of off-grid as being really light on the infrastructure and doing things simply and doing things without electricity and doing a lot of things by hand, we do meet that definition. And I gotta say, as far as taking care of these, what are now 17 ducks, it's been pretty easy. I mean, we're only in, mid-January at this point, so I don't want to get a little too cocky. I haven't really hit the depths of winter. But at the same time, I feel like we've got a good system down with the ducks. I get up every morning, I fill several buckets of water, walk it out to them. I take that water, fill up their pools. They get the chance to swim around and splash and be goofy ducks. The duck house itself has worked out really well. This was a retrofit of a 3-sided hay shed that I put a 4th wall on with a bunch of scrap lumber and materials. I've been insulating a lot of this, mostly with bales of straw and hay. I've been doing the deep litter bed method here for them. I've got a cat who's been on the hunt for some mice. Isn't that right, Pablo? Isn't that right? And all in all, it's been working out pretty good. I let them out in the mornings. They spend most of the day out here unless it gets really cold, and by really cold I mean pretty much anything under 5 degrees they don't want to come outside, and there's really no use in trying to fill the pools because it'll just freeze so quickly. But beyond that though, they're actually generally pretty happy, and they've been doing good. Everybody looks very healthy. And then this patch of land here, and I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, I have some big plans for this. So my idea is that the ducks are going to be out here probably until, I don't know, let's say late April, until I don't have snow on the ground, basically, is going to be my barometer. So that might even be early May. And I'm going to have them just keep working this land. Once they're done though, and I move them back out into the permaculture orchard and out into the pasture, what I'm going to do is till all of this up, and I'm going to plant our Three Sisters garden. I think you guys saw in that video I did with Jess from Roots and Refuge about how we're planning to do Three Sisters gardens. A Three Sisters garden, again, is that combination of corn, squash, and beans planted in a pattern. And I'm going to try to fill this thing with as much of it as possible. It's going to take advantage of the fertility of the ducks. It's going to be something that's a little bit of an experiment for me. But it's one of those things that wouldn't be possible really if I wasn't trying to do this off-grid style duck keeping this year. It's weird. I noticed that the When the duck flock senses danger, the males usually start up with their raspy call. It's like that. And that's usually the signal to the other ducks that, hey, this might be a dangerous situation, and then they all sort of cluster up. One creature comfort, though, that is sort of pseudo off-grid, but I guess technically it's off-grid. I did install that light. It's a solar-powered light. It's probably not going to work tonight because I got to dust the snow off. You know, just especially when I come out here at night to put the ducks up, it's so dark and it's hard to see what you're doing. Having just that little bit of light makes it easier. It also helps for shooting videos with you guys. And I have a theory it might scare off predators. The other thing that I have a theory has really helped with our predator problems out here has been this. Let me show you these guys. So it's these things. They're known as the predator eye. What they are is it's a little solar-powered thing. It's got this blinking red light, and the theory is that that blinking red light will scare away predators. Here, let me show you a clip of what it looks like at night. I've got several of these sort of scattered around the duck house, kind of from all corners. I've got to say, I've been tremendously lucky. Even though I know we have a ton of predators lurking around our property, they have steered very much clear of the duck house. I haven't seen animal tracks too close to the duck house. The closest I've seen, they're about 100, 150 yards away. But yeah, nobody's come too close. I had a bobcat in the barn, but even then in that situation, they were steering clear of the duck area. My theory is that these things really work well. So I'll just throw that out there. I'll leave a link down below. It's not an affiliate link. I don't really do affiliate programs right now, but I'll just leave it there. So if you guys are looking for it and like them yourself, you can check them out. It's just a good product. I think letting the ducks have access to this water and be able to swim around has been part of what's kept them healthy. I've heard stories where you get problems with insects and parasites and other stuff when the ducks can't get themselves clean. But I think having, you know, nearly daily access to water that they can swim in, even if it's just pretty shallow, has done a world of good for their health. Let me just stress that that's an I think statement. You know, so often as I was trying to research what we should be doing with our ducks, I come across stuff and, you know, one person says this and one person says that. And the more and more I get into this, the more and more I realize so much of this advice is driven off of that one person's experience in their specific context. And that experience that they're having might not work for you. And so while you can take some insight from that advice, and it's good to really do your research and homework, I think it's also important to recognize that everything's going to be a little bit different, and that exact textbook advice isn't going to necessarily work for you, and you got to sort of find your own way. You know you want to keep watching our videos, so don't stop. I'll leave a couple of other links that you guys can check out before we release our next video. And don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys next time here at Goldshaw Farm, where we're trying to build a farm in Vermont.